So I started questioning my abilities. I started questioning whether I'm actually good at my work. So when I was at work, I was feeling guilty for being there because I should be with my son. But when I was at home, I was feeling guilty that I should be at work.
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Emee Vida Estacio. Dr. Emee is a chartered psychologist and founder of the PAME Code. She is the #1 best-selling author of the Psychology in Your Life book series, including titles such as The Imposter Syndrome Remedy, Change Your Life for Good, and Fear is Not My Enemy. Welcome, Dr. Emee. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Danielle. It's such a pleasure to be on your show.
Now, I'm so excited that we have connected because I know you have very valuable information to share from your work with our listeners, especially related to that idea of imposter syndrome and motherhood. But I'd love to start with hearing how you got into this work in the first place.
Sure. Well, my background is in psychology, and I've been a psychologist for more than 20 years. So I've dedicated my life in studying psychology, teaching psychology, writing about psychology, everything about psychology, and doing it in practice. But when I gave birth to my son, things changed for me. Well, you can relate to that, and I'm sure that your listeners can relate to that notion that when you actually give birth, things change, your priorities changed. And for me, when I gave birth to my son, my priorities shifted. The way I spent my time shifted. And I also felt as if I wasn't really doing enough, as if I wasn't really making enough impact in the world by just staying in academia. Because even if I know so much about psychology and that I'm teaching at the university, talking to other researchers, talking to students, I feel as if it's limited, that I'm talking only to fellow academics and people in academia. And I felt there's so much that I can do with psychology and so much that I can offer with my knowledge and expertise in psychology. And so I've decided to explore self-publishing and write books, self-help books that are accessible to the public. Because even as an academic, we're used to writing research papers. I've written textbooks. I'm traditionally published as an academic. I felt as if that's still limited, that I'm talking jargon and gobbledygook and only psychologists can understand. I wanted to write something that is accessible to the masses and use psychology to help improve people's lives, to improve their mental health and well-being, and empower them to flourish with confidence in life. So I explored self-publishing. I ended up writing 3 books, Change Your Life for Good, Imposter Syndrome Remedy, and Fear is Not My Enemy. And that actually empowered me to explore entrepreneurship because I was making enough money from my books that I was able to quit my job. And now I have a more flexible, empowered life, spending time with my son, now homeschooling in lockdown. And just having a great time with my family and balancing work and life and my career in this way.
Wow. Good for you. That's so exciting
you.
that you've been able to make that transition and kind of follow the path that was on your heart. So how long ago was that you made that switch and quit your job?
Well, my son is 5 years old now, but I only left my job 2 years ago. I have to say that it wasn't necessarily a smooth transition because when I gave birth to my son, I was almost in denial. And I did experience a bit of an identity crisis because before I gave birth to my son, and with me experiencing imposter syndrome, we'll get to that in a little while. Before I gave birth to my son, I was spending something like 60 hours a week, working in the office because I felt as if I didn't put in the hours, if I didn't work as hard, then people are going to find out that I'm incompetent, that I'm not able to produce good quality work. So I was trying to compensate for my self-doubt by stretching myself, overstretching myself to the detriment of my own social life. I have no work-life balance at all. It was just really work, work, work. Home is just to go to sleep and, eat and have some rest and then go back to work again. So when I gave birth to my son, that wasn't possible anymore. It's not possible to work 60 hours a week anymore because there's this other human being that I have to take care of. So I started questioning my abilities. I started questioning whether I'm actually good at my work. So when I was at work, I was feeling guilty for being there because I should be with my son. But when I was at home, I was feeling guilty that I should be at work. So it really was a struggle for me. I had this identity crisis. I experienced postnatal depression. And around that time, it was also winter. So I'm originally from the Philippines and we are here in the UK, and I was affected by seasonal affective disorder. So I was just a total mess. So that went on for about a year and a half to 2 years. I was just really struggling with my mental health. I was getting really sick. I was getting vertigo. I was getting IBS, rashes. It was just horrible. I was sick physically, but psychologically, I was depressed to the point that I was suicidal. And when I was contemplating that, taking my own life because I felt as if I just lost everything, that even if I just gave birth, that I should be happy. I should be grateful. I have a son. This is so beautiful. For me, it felt as if I was carrying such a burden that I have to work. I have to prove myself at work. And the circumstances at work was such that when I came back from maternity leave, I was overloaded. There was no good transition. The transition going back to work wasn't very smooth. So I did struggle up to a point where I did contemplate suicide. And that sort of hit me that I was giving too much value on work. That if I lost my life, my work wouldn't care. They will replace me the next day. They will carry on. But the ones who are innocent, my son, my family, my loved ones, they are innocent and they are the ones who will get hurt the most. So that was the turning point for me. And what I did was I reached out for help. I had a friend. I talked to her and told her what was going on. And what she did, really good friend, she locked me in her office. She locked me in her office. She said, "How could you? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you just tell me now?" And I told her, "Look, because I wasn't really sure. I was trying to make sense of what's going on, and I think I've just really hit rock bottom now. That's why I'm reaching out for help now." So she locked me in her office and she said, "Look, I'm not letting you out of this office until you pick up the phone and call the GP." Well, here in the UK, GPs are doctors. You have to get help, and I'm not letting you out until you do that. And so I did. I picked up the phone.
What a good friend!
I know, right? She's still like that. She's quite harsh, but she knows what's best for you, even if she's harsh like that. So picked up the phone, got an appointment with a doctor, and then that's how I got the help. He wanted to give me meds like antidepressants and so on, but because I was breastfeeding at that time, I didn't want to go down that route. So I ended up going through counseling. They also recommended me getting the light box, which I also didn't take. I said I prefer to go out in nature and soak up the sun when I can. And, it was springtime by that time. So, I started to recover. And yeah, that was it. That was my path to recovery. I started writing my books, after I felt ready. I wanted to reflect about what happened to me and how other people could learn from my experience. And considering that I have a background in psychology, I started to think about some of the strategies that I've used personally to recover and then to teach others how they can use these strategies to recover from postnatal depression or just depression in general. If you're feeling stuck in the rut, or for some of my books like Imposter Syndrome Remedy, if you're feeling self-doubt, if you're feeling incompetent and so on, you could actually use the strategies in my book to apply those techniques from psychology and improve your health and well-being. So I wrote the books, I published them. All the 3 books got to #1 bestseller. I was making enough money to quit my job, and an opportunity came to take voluntary severance in my job. I was asking for a sign from God to say, is this really the path that I have to take? Maybe I'll be ready in 2 years. I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. Just give me a sign. And then a month later, this opportunity came out of nowhere. And I took it, and I'm covered for a year's pay, and I didn't have to worry about anything. So it was such a blessing. I took the leap, and this is where we are now. So everything came together, and I'm so happy that after I quit my job, my mental health got better significantly. I don't experience vertigo anymore. My rashes left, and I'm in a much better state. I feel that I'm a much better wife and mother to my child because I am there and I'm psychologically well. And, it's just nurturing the relationship. And now I'm able to enjoy motherhood more compared to how I was 2 years ago.
Wow, that's quite a transformation.
It is. And it was actually quite scary, Danielle, because for me, being in psychology and devoting 20 years of my life, imagine that I spent so much time training, doing my undergrad, my master's, my PhD, postdoc, lectureship. I invested so much time and effort to get to where I was in my career as an academic, only to leave it behind and shut the door behind me. It was quite scary, and go into this online space, create my own business, set up my own practice and have my own books, to have my own portfolio of books. But, that was the best decision I've ever made, because for me, I have a sense of autonomy, that I got my identity back, that even if, yes, I have my family, I also have my career, and I'm becoming a good role model to my son, because I'm always learning. I'm always eager to learn new things, because I'm relatively new in the online space compared to me as an academic. 20 years compared to 2 years, I'm relatively a toddler, in the online space, but I'm willing to learn, and my son could see that, and, I could show him that it's okay to transition, and it's okay to learn and grow and explore new things in life. So I totally love this new path that I'm taking, and I'm very excited to show my son and be a good role model for him.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
So those feelings that you talk about of, the guilt or the identity crisis or the, imposter syndrome and depression, those are universal now. So many people struggle. Do you think that that's something that is really permeating the world of motherhood?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Before we get into that, let's just make sure that we understand the terms, what we mean by imposter syndrome. Because when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's usually discussed in the context of work or in career that people feel as if they are fooling everyone into believing that they are qualified or they are good at what they do. It's this sense of self-doubt, the feeling of incompetence and inadequacy, despite the fact that you're actually good at what you do. But this doesn't actually just apply in the context of work. This also applies in the context of motherhood, because how do we prepare ourselves to become mothers, and what makes you qualified as a mother? How do you even prepare your self confidence and your feelings of that, oh yeah, I'm gonna be good at this, if it's your first time to do this? How confident can you say that? So I could totally understand if some mothers experience imposter syndrome after giving birth to their children. But at the same time, if you are a working mom, or for example, if you are a mom with a business, or you're juggling work and your family life, imposter syndrome can come from the different angles. And in my case, it was coming at all angles, at work and at home, because for me, before I gave birth to my son, I was already experiencing imposter syndrome at work. And it's because I didn't really cope with it well. I didn't really pay attention to it when you added another layer, another new responsibility, and then it just escalated and went out of control. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, the things that you need to watch out for are this feeling of incompetence, this feeling of inadequacy. And that usually stems from this denial of competence, your inability to internalize success. That when you do something good, you don't actually notice it. And when something goes bad, or even if it is just little flaws that you've made these little mistakes because you're new at it, you actually put all the blame on yourself as if you've been doing it for 20 years and that you did it out of malice, or that you're just absolutely incompetent, when the fact is you're actually new. You're learning. No one's going to blame you if you're screwing up something that you've never done before. It's a learning process. So with imposter syndrome, the first characteristic is this inability to internalize success, the inability to recognize the things that you are doing well. And if something goes right, you can't really say, it's because I did something good. You always attribute it to external factors. So, for example, in my case, I would say things like, it's not that I'm good, it's just that I'm lucky. Or when people give me compliments, I would say, I think they're just being nice to me. I don't understand why people are being so polite. Or if you do something well, you downgrade what you've done. So you would say something like, it's not a big deal. Anyone can do that. When the truth is, you're actually doing something well. You're showing excellent skills and perseverance and so on. But other people can see it, but you can't. So that's one thing that you need to watch out for. The second thing is you need to watch out for maladaptive perfectionist tendencies. And I have to say that you have to differentiate between adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism. Because when we talk about adaptive perfectionism, that's absolutely fine. Because when you do something and you review it and you're looking for ways to improve it, that's okay. You're trying to improve yourself. You're trying to grow, to develop your skills and abilities. That's what we call adaptive perfectionism. But maladaptive perfectionism, on the other hand, is when you do something and you only see the flaws and you beat yourself up too much, that even if it is just a 1% flaw, that's the only thing that you see. You cannot see the 99% that went well. You only see that little bit of, imperfection, and it's driving you nuts. So I think for some mothers, they might experience this, that and especially now on social media, we're being told to feed your child only organic food, and you have to hold them all the time. All these parenting,
So many things.
So many things that we are being told to do. And when you feel that you're not doing enough, that you can only pick on those little things that you can't do and not really recognize the things that you are doing well. That's the maladaptive perfectionist tendencies that could hit you and could really make your mental health and well-being spiral if your self-worth and if your self-worth is already quite low. So yes, so you have to watch out for those two characteristics, the inability to internalize success, that you cannot really receive compliments, you can't see anything that you're doing well. And the second is the maladaptive perfectionist tendency, that you tend to just focus on the things that aren't going well, and you can't appreciate all these little things. Even if it's just tiny things every day that you're doing well, you can't see it. Everybody else can, but you can't. You can't celebrate your success. You can't appreciate your little wins, no matter how small. We need to learn how to appreciate it, because if you don't, you might spiral into in a difficult position in terms of your mental health and well-being.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot just in my work with one-on-one parent coaching with clients. One of the things that I'm always adamant to do is to find and celebrate those little wins for that family, because of course they're coming to me with the 1% that, isn't going well and isn't improving. And of course they want, with the stakes being so high, wanting to parent well and wanting to show up as best they can and, create really great kids. Of course, the pressure is on to, make it 100% amazing. But yeah, I see that very often where the shift is focused on the wrong things. And when we can build the momentum on the other side of what things are going well, what is working, then we're really able to kind of build momentum there. So
absolutely,
what through your work has really helped strategy-wise, to moms that are really identifying with that idea of, I am that mom. I am 100% focused on what's not going well. I cannot take a compliment. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. What do you say to them?
Yes, well, I have several strategies that I teach inside my book. But just picking up from what you've said, Danielle, when you focus on that 1% and forget about the 99%, one of the things that I teach my clients is to keep a catalog of wins, that you're actually keeping a record of the things that are going well. So when you hit those low points, you can actually go back to that and see, it's like, oh yeah, I've done that. Or even just little post-it notes. So for example, for me, as a former lecturer, at the end of the academic year, students give me cards and they thank me for a fantastic, for the support that I've given. I keep those, and it just makes me feel happy, whenever I see those, and I compile them. In the same way, for us as moms, we could compile all these little notes that our kids are giving us to show us how much they appreciate us, or all those little wins that you might have. And so when you have your low points, you can actually go back to that. But
I love that.
if I can just teach a strategy that your listeners could use, and this is something that I use with my clients as well. We call it the TLC technique. And it's not really about tender loving care. It's about understanding your inner critic, because we all have limiting beliefs. We have all these moments where we doubt ourselves, and we can hear that inner critic, telling us, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you're failing again. You're messing it up. Oh, you're such a lousy mom. Things like that. And you actually talk to yourself in that way. You hear the inner critic. Now, there are some self-help gurus that might tell you to crush it, to banish it, to ignore it, have a fight with it. What I would say is try to avoid that, because no matter what happens, your inner critic is still a voice inside your head, and it's your head. And if you're going to have a fight with your inner critic, you're essentially having a fight with yourself. So what I would say is you need to apply the TLC questioning sequence. And this is a questioning sequence that encourages you to ask 3 questions. And these are, is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? Because most of the time, the inner critic messages that you have inside your head are untrue, illogical, and destructive. And it certainly helps to work with a coach or a friend, to go through this questioning sequence, because sometimes some of the thoughts that we are holding are so ingrained in us that we actually accept them as true. We accept them as our reality, and we are a bit reluctant to see the alternative. So, for example, if you are telling yourself, I'm a bad mom, I'm a failure, you have to ask yourself, is it true? Is it true that you are a bad mom and that you are a failure? When you ask the first question, is it true? And you answer yes, you have to ask again, where's the evidence? What makes you a bad mom? And the reason why I would ask my clients to explore these inner critic messages is because if you just try to banish them, if you try to suppress them, you're not really getting into the root of why you are feeling this way. So it might hurt a little bit to explore these emotions, to explore these thoughts. But it's important for you to understand where these thoughts are coming from and explore whether they are true, logical, or constructive. And if you haven't got the evidence to support it, then why are you holding on to it? So if you're saying, I'm a bad mom, and you ask, is it true? Yes, it is true. Where's your evidence? Why are you feeling this way? And you say something like, because my friend's kid is doing so much better than my kid. And the next question is it logical? Just because the other kid is doing well, does that make you a bad mom? How is someone else's performance or how is someone else's kid a reflection of your parenting? It's, there's a disconnect there.
Huge.
So, yeah, why is another mom's parenting the measure of yours? There's a disconnect there. So you need to ask, is it true? Is it logical? And the next question is it constructive? So let's assume that you can't shake off the feeling that you're a bad mom, and you can't shake off the feeling that, because the other mom is better, that makes you a bad mom. The third question is it constructive? How does this thought help you in any way? How is this helping you? How is this helping your child? And if you can just flip it around, assume that it is true that the other mother is doing better, what can you learn from her? If you are friends with her, what good practice can you take from her parenting that you can apply to yours? So instead of beating yourself up for being a quote unquote bad mom because someone else is better than you, just say, okay, fine, I accept they are better than me, but yeah, I'm a work in progress, and there must be something that I can learn. It's okay, we're learning, we're growing, and there's something that I could develop as well. So you make it constructive instead of beating yourself up. You turn it around and you do something about it.
That's brilliant. I really, really like those questions. That makes so much more sense than just swimming around in that thought process, having no ability to kind of move forward or know what to do. And the fact that they're TLC, I know that I will remember them. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. And all the time, whenever I share this with my clients, from the first session, they have all these limiting beliefs at work. Most of my clients are professionals. A lot of them are teachers or healthcare professionals who feel insecure about their abilities and so on. And they always say things like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not, people are going to find out that I'm a fraud. And when I teach them the TLC questioning sequence, is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? It makes them feel empowered because it gives them the permission to explore their thoughts, that it's actually okay to have these thoughts. And it's also okay to have this compassionate self-talk. It's almost like, okay, I recognize that I'm feeling this way. Let's explore where it's coming from. Is it true? where's the evidence? Why am I feeling this way? Is it logical? Is there a disconnect? Is it irrational? And how is this helping me? Is it constructive? How is this helping me? How is this helping others around me? And how can I make this work to our benefit instead of dragging us down? So the TLC questioning sequence, it's usually helpful to have a coach or a mentor to go through this with you on the first occasion, because sometimes some of your beliefs are long held beliefs that someone actually has to poke you and say, I don't think that's true. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Things
Yes.
like that. You need that external voice to poke you a little bit, because if you've been holding on to these beliefs all your life, it's not going to be just a switch, a light bulb switch that it's going to be different. You need someone. It takes a bit of practice as well to be able to recognize when your thoughts are untrue, illogical, and destructive. So on the first instance, you can work with a coach or a mentor to explore these inner critic messages with you. And eventually, it will become natural for you that you catch yourself having these inner critic messages and asking those questions. Is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? Almost automatically, and realize when you actually need to shift your perspective and make it constructive for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm sure when trying to take away and do this, the next day, there'll be moms say, "Oh, it doesn't work for me." But it's because, you need those thoughts need to go kicking and screaming out
Yes.
with help of someone else being able to point those things out. And when I've tried talking a friend through things, I try to give them evidence of the contrary, like, "No, you're a good mom because of this reason and this reason," but they still can't shake it because they
They
haven't fully
resist.
addressed the belief that they are, kind of taking in and owning. And so being able to deconstruct it with those three steps will be much more effective for them to be actually able to accept a different look or identity as to especially how they are as a mom.
Absolutely. And when working with a coach and being in that safe, caring space, it's not it's a non-judgmental space. So you're actually more able to explore these thoughts, and instead of giving advice and pointing out, "Oh no, you're a good mom. Why are you thinking this way?" Well, actually you encourage them to explore why they are feeling this way and find out where these beliefs, where these thoughts are coming from, and they could find the answers themselves, because if they can generate enough evidence themselves that prove otherwise, then they will find the answers themselves. So instead of having someone tell you, "Oh, don't be silly, you're a good mom." Well, actually, if you are feeling this way, this is how you feel. Explore that feeling, explore where it's coming from, and see again, and ask whether it's true, logical, or constructive, and make sure that you actually base it on evidence that,
Yeah.
that we can see in this reality, not just in your head.
Right. Oh, that's such a good takeaway. That's so key. That's gonna be such a value added from this episode. Was there any other strategies that you wanted to share?
Sure. There's another strategy. I think this is probably easier when I do my other bit of coaching, because I also coach writers to write books, and they experience imposter syndrome and so on. The technique that I teach with them, and this is so easy, it's called the flashlight technique.
Okay.
Essentially, what the flashlight technique encourages you to do is to imagine that you are holding a flashlight. So the flashlight can only flash the light at one spot at a time, right? So when you flash the light onto yourself, you can only see your self-doubt, your fears, your frustrations, and so on. And when you flash the light that way, you'll focus on that. That's what you see, and that's what other people will see as well. But with the flashlight technique, you are encouraged to flash the light out. So instead of shining the light onto your self-doubt and to your fears and frustrations, you actually flash the light out to the people you are aiming to serve. So for my clients, I ask them, shine the light out to your readers. Who are you trying to serve? Who are you trying to support because of your books, because of your writing? And when they can see that their book can help so many people, that there are people who will benefit from their message, from their skills and expertise, they forget that they are afraid. They forget that they are doubting themselves, because all they can see are the people who need them right now. That, there are people that they can serve and bring value to those people through their books. In the same way, for us parents, if you shine the light onto yourself that you're feeling incompetent as a parent, that you're doubting your abilities as a parent, that's what you will see, and that's what you will focus on. And I bet that your children will see that as well, because that's filling your energy. That's what you're focusing on. But when you shine the light out, you shine the light out to your family, to your children, how wonderful it is to have this human being, and that you get to be their mom, that you are the person who can shape them and nurture them in this critical time of development. You'll do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if you're feeling doubtful about yourself. It doesn't matter if you're feeling incompetent. But when you focus on, this human being that you can nurture and grow together and learn together, actually, and they see you as a role model, your self-doubt could just melt away when you use the flashlight technique in this way.
Wow. I need that myself for with starting this podcast. When I can tell that I'm shining it at myself, I think of a million reasons why I am not the best person to spread this message, and why I don't know everything I need to know, and how hard it is, and just get really, really down about those logistics of it. But then as soon as I find an article about parents struggling, or I talk to friends, or I work with a client, and I realize how great the need is, and how much I can show up for, other moms, and spread this message that, like, it's okay to feel like you're failing. We all are. Let's talk about it. Like, there's ways to feel more empowered. And yeah, it lights a fire under me. I feel so ignited and ready to do it and figure it out. And everything is figure outable at that point. So I can
Marie Forleo.
Yes. I just wrapped up B school, so I got her on the brain. But yeah, so if it's that tangible that I can apply that to starting this podcast, I'm sure that moms could see how that could translate for them as well, and they can see which way they're shining that flashlight.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love the flashlight technique, because it is so simple. When you actually take the light away from you, and you see who you are serving, to see the need out there, and how much value you can bring, you can just forget about yourself, forget your self-doubt. People actually do need you. They need your service, and you just offer, you do whatever it takes to actually deliver what is needed right now.
And that's where I feel like moms show up the most. Like they're mama bears. They will do what it takes. They will show up for their kids. They will do whatever it takes when it comes down to it. And the more that we can feel like we're centered on that belief and are showing up for those needs, then absolutely we'll worry a lot less about how insecure we feel, or how unqualified we feel, and we can just put those things aside at least a little bit.
Yes, and actually, when you show up more, you're going to add more and more items in your catalog of wins, right? So
yes, that we're documenting.
Win 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 win. So it's just you just continue to grow and develop. And when you recognize that you're not perfect, and when you are okay with that, it takes the burden off you as well, because with motherhood, and for your listeners who are entrepreneurs or professionals, or whatever it is that they're doing as well, we'll always face challenges. We'll always have new roles, new responsibilities, new issues, crises that will come up along the way. And for us to recognize that we are work in progress. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to feel bad about ourselves sometimes. That's why in my book I call it imposter syndrome remedy rather than imposter syndrome cure. Is because it's a recognition that it's not, I'm not trying to cure it. We cannot cure self-doubt because it will come like a cold. You will catch it every now and then. But the important thing is that you are able to cope with it, that you're able to handle it well. If you have the tools and strategies to manage it, then fire away, come with all the challenges. You're welcome to self-doubt. You're welcome to, especially when you come up with new projects, with new roles, new challenges in life. You'll be so arrogant if you feel confident all the time, right? So self-doubt will always come every now and again, but it's always, we always have to remember that it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. And when you do, explore your thoughts, figure out why you are feeling this way, apply the TLC technique if you can. And if the TLC technique is not working, shine the light out. Shine the light out and see who you're serving, because you're showing up and giving value to others.
Okay, so that was so much. So I'm going to link all of the ways to connect with Dr. Emee in the show notes, and including her books, which are available on Amazon and Audible and iTunes. And I know moms will want to find out more ways that they can hear more from you. Any further advice? I feel like you summed it up really well.
Any further advice? I think for me, my turning point, and for all you mamas out there who might still be feeling self-doubt and incompetent and so on, it's okay to feel that way. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're only human, and there's really nothing wrong to feel all these emotions. It's part of our human experience. And whenever you're ready to reach out for help, do reach out for help. There's no shame in asking for help. And when you do, have it in open arms. And, if you have to apply the TLC technique, do that. If you need to, talk to someone, maybe even seek professional help if you need to do that. But, don't be too hard on yourself. This is perfectly human to feel this way. Explore your thoughts, explore your emotions, and whenever you're ready, manage it and handle it well.
That's great advice. Yes, definitely something that you did in your own life and can speak to and recommend to others. So the last question I love to ask every guest is, how are you the right mom for your son?
Oh, how am I? Well, for me, I've been through a struggle, to begin with. I really didn't cope well at the start, but I know that I'm the perfect mom for him because I could be a good role model for him. We enjoy our times together. We learn together. We laugh together. And for me, showing up now that I am well psychologically, that I've recovered, I'm able to show him that, look, sometimes I fall down. It happens. But, you can always pick yourself up, carry on, bring the people you love with you, and enjoy life together. So, that's what we are doing. And, we have every intention to carry on this way.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on and for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I hope I brought value to your listeners, and to those who need that support, do reach out if you need that support and guidance. We are here to help mamas out there.
I love it. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Mic drop. Am I right? I hope you take the time this week to let this one sink in. Save those TLC questions and explore your feelings with a trusted coach or friend. And always remember, you are the mom your kids need. Next episode, we'll hear from a mama creating beautiful art on Instagram, born out of a need to process her own grief. We talk about her experiences with miscarriage and why it's okay to still admit that motherhood is hard. You won't want to miss it. You are the ones helping this podcast grow. Subscribe, write a review, and share it with a friend. Thank you so much. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on.